Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely mind-bending. We're looking at one of the most profound, deeply complex, and enduring cosmological worldviews in all of human history, the spiritual and ecological framework of Indigenous Australia. We're going to examine some ancient concepts that will completely reframe how you understand reality, nature, and literally time itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if the past, the present, and the future were all happening right now? I know, it's wild to think about. Growing up in a Western culture, we're taught to perceive time as just a straight line, right? A sequence of events marching steadily from yesterday to today to tomorrow. But to actually grasp Aboriginal cosmology, we have to completely throw that linear timeline out the window.
To describe this totally nonlinear reality, the anthropologist W.E.H. Stanner coined a pretty brilliant term, the everyone. Now, you've probably heard the English phrase the dreaming or dreamtime, but experts and First Nations people largely agree that dreaming is a vastly inadequate translation. It kind of makes it sound like a sleep state or a fantasy, you know? But in local languages, concepts like Jukurpa in Central Australia or Manguni in the Western Desert describe a vastly complex, integrated way of life. The everyone literally means that the past, present, and future exist simultaneously as one continuous, eternal reality.
As Stanner put it perfectly, one cannot fix the dreaming in time. It was and is everyone. I absolutely love that phrasing. Because this isn't just some dead, ancient history lesson we're talking about. This is a holistic philosophy. It's a living, breathing system of moral balance and ecology that is actively occurring right now, literally all around us.
Section 1. Welcome to the everyone beyond linear time.
Let's zoom out to the macro level of the cosmos for a second to see how this actually works. And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental shift in perspective we need to make here. So on one hand, Western time is sequential. Pretty straightforward. But on the other hand, Aboriginal time is cyclical and eternal. Creation wasn't just some singular event that happened billions of years ago and then just finished. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a continuous, living system that is happening simultaneously in the here and now.
So in this eternal reality, ancestral beings rose from beneath the earth to shape what was essentially a formless world. And they didn't just physically create the mountains, the valleys, and the waterholes. They instituted the very laws, customs, and ecological rules for survival. And when their initial work was done, they didn't just disappear. No, they left their living spiritual essence imprinted directly into the land, the rocks, and the water. Doing this established what anthropologists call a reflexive moral relationship of care between humans, animals, and the earth itself.
Section 2. The Rainbow Serpent, the Creator and the Storm.
Let's introduce the most iconic and honestly the most powerful ancestral being that inhabits this eternal realm. The rainbow serpent is this massive, eternal entity. Much like an archetypal mother goddess, it creates land in diversity, literally pushing up huge ridges and deep gorges as it slithers across the earth. It's the ultimate life giver, intimately associated with water and permanent rock holes. But it definitely has a dual nature. When angered or disturbed, this exact same entity acts as a destructive force of chaos, unleashing devastating storms, cyclones, and floods to drown those who upset the balance.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of this belief. The concept of the serpent spans across the entire continent, going by numerous names across incredibly diverse Aboriginal languages and regions. You can see how it ranges from Yurlungur in Arnhem Land, to the Wagyu in Western Australia, down to Dakon in Queensland, and the Woolenhwa in the Northern Territory. It's practically a universal motif across Indigenous Australia. The characteristics of the serpent are just incredibly specific and highly sensory. It's associated with diffracting light, so not just rainbows in the sky, but rainbow quartz crystals and iridescent mother-of-pearl shells. It represents human blood circulation, fertility, and even healing. And unlike typical Western, human-centric deities, the serpent is often depicted with total gender fluidity. It's sometimes male, sometimes female, sometimes bigender, and it always takes the form of an animal, never a human.
Section 3. Dreams as a Bridge, the Mental Journey to the Eternal.
So you might be wondering, how do humans actually bridge the gap between their everyday mundane lives and this eternal ancestral realm? Well, we have to distinguish between two completely different types of dreams. There are ordinary night dreams, which are just your everyday sleep experiences. But then there are special dreams. These are extremely vivid, lucid experiences utilized by artists and clever men, known as bandman, where the spirit literally travels out of body to access eternal knowledge, retrieve sacred songs, and communicate directly with the ancestors.
Take the Pintupi concept of Kurumpa, or spirit, for example. They believe that during these special dreams, a person's spirit travels completely apart from their physical body to observe the invisible underlying realm of creation. So, the crucial point is that to these cultures, this isn't just a vivid imagination or some loose metaphor. No way! This out-of-body travel is viewed as a literal, empirical journey to a completely different order of reality.
I absolutely love this quote from Kimberley elder David Moajarlai describing a clever man in the state. He says, "They ride that snake. They fly away. You see him breathing, but it gone. He traveling." And that's how they compose corroboree. It really grounds this incredible cosmological concept in a specific sensory anecdote. The physical body is just lying there asleep and breathing, but the spirit is actually out riding the serpent to bring back sacred knowledge to the community. How cool is that?
Section 4. Becoming the Ancestors. Ceremony, Music, and Flow.
Which brings us to the physical bridge to the everyone. How is this eternal reality manifested in the waking world? The answer is through highly complex, perfectly synchronized ceremonies. A ceremonial performance is incredibly demanding. It kicks off with elaborate preparation of sacred body paint, which can sometimes take up to 3 hours. Then, continuous stick beating begins, precisely timed to mimic the human heartbeat. After that comes the execution of strictly interlocking rhythmic and melodic song structures. And finally, highly specific traditional dance movements. Absolute perfection and synchronicity across all these elements are required to successfully pull the ancestor from the country.
Now, this level of intense musical coordination actually impacts human cognition. Ethnomusicologist Catherine Ellis defined a concept called metatime. By manipulating repeated, interlocking musical patterns that perfectly sync with physiological factors like your breathing and your heart rate, the music literally shifts the brain's perception of time for the participants. Time seems to be both entirely frozen and completely never-ending at the exact same moment.
Let's move on and see how this builds when we look at the sociology of it. Sociologist Alfred Schutz talked about this concept of shared inner time. This is a state where individuals sharing an intense, perfectly synchronized musical experience literally enter each other's stream of consciousness. Factually separated people end up sharing the exact same vivid present in vivid simultaneity. They are collectively tuning into an ancient shared consciousness. We can also understand this through the psychological state of flow, popularized by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. When dancers and singers are totally immersed in this purposeful ceremonial activity, objective clock time completely loses all significance. Self-consciousness is totally eliminated. Action and awareness merge into one, which results in true self-transcendence. The boundary between the past creation and the present moment just blurs away entirely.
Elder David Moajarlai summarizes this psychological and spiritual state beautifully. He says, "When your mind is tuned in and directed, you are in an ancient state of mind. Time stands still, because your mind is in a state where time does not count. Ancient time is no time." The Aboriginal experience of ceremony aligns so perfectly with these complex flow states, literally rendering time meaningless.
And this leads us to a critical distinction that is absolutely essential for us to grasp. During these flawlessly executed ceremonies, the dancer doesn't merely represent the ancestor. They literally become the material manifestation of that ancestor in the present moment. This is not some theatrical play. It's not a historical reenactment. It is the literal reincarnation of the ancestral being happening right in front of the community. The ancestor is alive, right here, right now.
80,000. Let that sink in for a second. That is the number of years this incredible system of knowledge, ecological care, and spiritual connection has been passed down continuously. It's an unbroken chain of storytelling, survival, and reverence for the earth that makes it one of the oldest continuing cultures on the entire planet. Honestly, it's just staggering to think about.
Let's quickly summarize the amazing journey we've taken today. First, the everyone is a continuous, eternal reality, not some distant past epic. Second, the rainbow serpent is a universally recognized deity representing the raw, dual forces of creation and nature. Third, special dreams serve as literal, out-of-body bridges to this eternal realm. And finally, through the deep psychological flow of ceremony, humans can physically embody and become the ancestral beings in the present moment. I want to leave you with this profound shift in perspective. Just think about it.
How would your own life change if you believed the earth beneath your feet was alive with eternal ancestors right now? What if every rock, river, and animal was part of an ongoing, sacred creation that required your active moral care? It really makes you look at the world differently, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.